All right, so we're back, episode 31 of the Cutler Cast, and we just finished a workout at Fit Club today. Did some legs. Your favorite day of the week, bro?
I don't know. Do they know we look like fucking total slobs right now?
I didn't train for 3 days because
Why?
of this crazy trip. You know, I left on Friday, and I had events Saturday and Sunday, and then I drove back like a maniac on
But
Sunday night.
Travel, you always train them. What was the reason you didn't?
Well, I flew on Friday, and I left at noon, so I really didn't have time to get together because I waited to pack. You know, Angie was going out early for this LA Fit Expo, so she was packing up the truck, and I said to her at 10 o'clock at night, I said, what time are you going to leave, you know? And she's like, oh, I'll leave, whatever. I think she left at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 o'clock.
She messaged me when she got in.
Yeah,
Because I always get up early.
Yeah.
I was up at 6, and
she
she's
just
like, I
got
just saw
in,
Regan downstairs. He was going to do cardio. I'm like, what do you mean downstairs? She pulled in at like 6 in the morning.
So she drove overnight, and I left at like my flight was at 12. So as you know, I took an Uber to the airport just because I knew I'd link up with her in LA at the end of my trip, and we would drive back together. But so I had an appearance in New Jersey, Aries Nutrition. Flew into Philly. It was a long ways, dude. It was over an hour Uber ride to where I was staying.
How much was the Uber?
$75.
That's not bad then.
And then Guy picked me up to drive me to the event on Saturday, and then we did the event at Aries. It was great. Huge turnout, like 90 degrees. Myself, Carlos Thomas Jr., Nick Walker, Aaron Banks, and I think that was Guy, obviously, and then we had a few other people that were floating around there, but Aries does a great job selling my products, and Pat's been a huge supporter. You've met Pat before,
of course,
and it was just good to get out there and be able to do the event, and the weather was great.
I was just going to say, was it hot as hell?
Yeah, because we were under a tent, so it was all right. But it's just good to we took pictures. We kind of did a group thing, which was kind of different. And then, Guy took me over to the New York Pro, and I got to mingle at the New York Pro. I really didn't watch a ton of the show. And I know we want to do a little review on like what we did, what the show was about. But I got to walk around and really kind of mingle with people. That's kind of what I wanted to do. But Blessing looked unbelievable. So I went from the New York Pro, slept 2 hours, got on a flight home to L.A., and flew direct to L.A. I had a bed on the plane, so I slept. And
I know you said the flight sucked, though.
Oh, it was so bumpy. It was such crazy turbulence. I'm like, I woke up and I'm like, are we going down right now?
You messaged me, said this shit might be going down.
So I got to L.A. I landed about 9:30, and then went to the hotel. Angie had ordered food. Did the whole LA Fit Expo. You guys can see that on my YouTube channel right now on Jay Cutler TV. You can see the whole thing. I got to meet up with Phil Heath, and of course, everyone was there. Who else was there? Regan was there. Whitney Jones,
Dana and Rob Bailey.
Yeah.
Bradley Martin came by one day.
Callie Muscle was there. Big Boy was there.
Chef Rush.
Yeah.
Brad Castleberry.
Yeah, Brad Castleberry.
It was a star-studded event. Danny Hester, he came and did a posing clinic. Logan Franklin.
Yeah, I saw Sean Ray was emceeing
the
whole thing, and I didn't get to participate in that. But so. All in all, a good weekend. I'll touch a little bit back on that, but I want to talk a little bit about the New York Pro. Blessing repeats. Mm-hmm. I thought he looked tremendous. I got to see him in real life. Obviously, we were kind of raving about him from Indy, right? Such redemption, man. George did a great job with him. Yeah. I told you he has a similar look to Sean Roden, like
just
the midsection. Yeah, just not the crazy legs, but the legs are pretty comparable. If you ask me how he's going to fare at the Olympia, because he's obviously going to shut it down now. I think he can do pretty well because he's got a lot of detail. Yeah, I mean he's got to get overall bigger size, which is crazy because he's actually pretty damn impressive. I feel he handedly won that show. Yeah. I know the guy that was second there was really good. He looked pretty good, and of course Max Charles got third, which I thought it was after prejudging between Max and Blessing, but it switched a little bit. So yeah, a couple. One guy from France, one guy from Italy. I think the Italian guy, did he get second?
I feel really. I didn't really watch much of anything. I just saw some highlights come up.
Yeah,
because we were so slammed at the at the LA Fit Expo. I just didn't have time to look at much of anything.
Yeah, so pull up what it was.
Oh, we can look it up quick.
Yeah, just to see the top 5 placings, so we can give a breakdown. I mean, the guy that was second was super shredded. I mean, I just felt like he wasn't as big as Blessing, I guess, but definitely would have pulled it off if Blessing wasn't there. And Max looked great. He's really yeah.
I feel like I said, I didn't watch it. Then Max Charles and Theo, and then Justin Rodriguez got 5th. Justin, I think, was the biggest talk of the show because he was a
So the guy that got 4th was from
Theo. I'm going to butcher his last name.
He was very impressive. He's from France.
Okay.
And he looked really good. I congratulate both those guys. And those 2 guys are going to Cali Pro this coming weekend. I know Blessing's sitting out. I don't know what Max is doing. Justin, I know there's talk about, him changing coaches and like, should he take a break or whatever? Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he looked good, but we always talk about like the transition of doing show after show after show, how hard it is, right?
It taxes on the body.
Especially when you're big. I mean, Justin was huge at the Arnold, right?
Yeah.
Huge at the Boston Pro. You got to give your body, like, you can only peak so many times, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you want to do the Olympia. He's ahead on points right now.
He's second in points, but I mean, it's still early in the season. There's a lot of shows this year. I don't know if that'll be enough points to do it at the end of the year.
Yeah. So what I love about, going to New York and obviously I won the Night of Champions, which is now the New York Pro, and it was at Beacon Theater. And I got to talk to a lot of people that have attended every single New York Pro Night of Champions since that time. And it brings back a certain memory because that was my first victory, 2000. It was my first, like, impact in the pro ranks, and I won the ring. It still sits in my office on the desk.
What year was the last Night of Champions?
I don't know. I think it was around 2004, maybe, or
405.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Maybe
because I know it's like that was a big
I
deal.
think Phil Heath won the New York Pro. Was that 05 he won or 06?
06.
Okay,
I think 06.
So somewhere in that range, but it always has that, like, we love that New York vibe at a lot of these events
because the fans there, they're fucking crazy.
Yeah, they are.
They really
and the show was packed. I mean, the night show was crazy, and the way he split it into different divisions. So a lot of the female stuff, like they did certain shows. The 212 were already done, so I think they had the bikinis and the men's in the finals. And
I remember the first time I went. It's like one of those. It's a crowd that they appreciate if you're a good. They don't care if you're. I mean, they're going to root for the local guy. Yeah. But if you don't deserve to win, they don't care. They want to see the best bodybuilders. They love big.
Yeah, big and they loved Blessing, which was cool. And this show always, because of course Steve's such a great guy, and he's my partner in a couple of shows, but. Always has that mystique around it, and it was just great to see a lot of pros. I mean, Walker showed up, and Guy was there. I saw Victor Martinez, and Juan Morel was there.
I would have loved to have gone. It was the same weekend.
So it was just good. I mean, I was impressed. I mean, like, there were no like huge names, but the guys all looked good. And it's great to see Max Charles improving. Of course he's. Trying to get that qualification, and we've seen him win some shows before, but I mean he's definitely making headway. He's gotten better each show, and he's such a good guy, and I mean a lot of standout body parts and a lot of the guys up there. But Blessing's routine was awesome, and like I said, the crowd was great. So it's cool to see now all these shows back to back, like Indy, New York Pro, and now we'll see the Cali show.
I remember
this weekend.
Years ago, I want to say it was 2017, 18, because Regan did Classic, and he won. And I had Nathan Diaz do the New York. And then we all jumped on a plane and flew straight to Cali. Yeah. And then he won the Cali back-to-back.
Was it in Teaneck when he did the show? Or where was it?
It was in White Plains.
Oh, it was. Okay, that's when they had it up.
Yeah, because we rented a car and drove way up. Yeah. Then we went out to Steve's gym to go train, and he won that. He won the show up there.
Yeah. It's great,
Look at this guy.
It's okay. We're filming. As far as, the LA Fit Expo, tell me what I missed on Saturday a little bit, because I know I walked in on Sunday and I heard that Saturday, I mean, you were texting me, said it's pretty damn busy. Sunday wasn't super crowded, it seemed like, but obviously my line was crazy. Yeah.
I mean, look, we got in on Thursday, and then Friday we went and filmed. and Dana Lynn Bailey and Regan Film for the YouTube, which was kind of cool. We went to the Mecca, and he goes there from time to time. Dana hadn't been there in like 5 years, so it was cool seeing her and him, and the legend in the female side training with the young buck and giving him some posing tips and whatnot. And we joked about it. I said, "Hey, I'm going to take you to Montana, and Dana's going to do your routine because she's an amazing poser.
Yeah,
like you can have a woman do your help you with your routine."
What body part did they train?
They train back.
And what was it like at the Mecca? I mean, Dana never goes there, so what was it like?
I like it better now than it was before because they got the outside and the back and the front. They got a fence around it, so it's not so compacted on the inside, but it's just not as crowded.
You see anyone there?
Michael Hearn.
Okay.
Michael Hearn and Mona came, and then trying to think who else is in there. Just the normal Maureen was in there training and Regan training, but it was we did that on Friday. Then we all just kind of hung out, and then Phil Heath and I went and had dinner on Friday.
Did you go eat at the firehouse after or no?
No. We just got out. We came back, and then Saturday this is the first Fit Expo in over 2 years. The last one was actually when Kobe died, because we were at the Fit Expo that Sunday when he passed away, and so it's been over 2 years that there's been a Fit Expo, so we didn't know what to expect. So when Angie and I were coming in at 9-something in the morning, the line had to have been a half a mile long. It was, I don't know if nobody's been to this building.
I saw the videos.
If nobody's been to the building, it's one of the bigger buildings that you can ever go to, and the line was all the way down and wrapped around the building. So once we got inside there, it was a madhouse.
I was always concerned if the expos were going to come back to life.
I think the big ones will always be there, but some of the smaller ones might not have survived.
Do you think the show would have been bigger if it was in January versus May?
Yes, for sure. It'll be so. There's one more expo this year. It's at the end of June, just outside of San Jose, and after that, they're shut down.
What happened at Anaheim?
They couldn't get dates.
And what about San Diego?
San Diego couldn't get dates. So it's all pushed to next year, but next year will be back to normal.
Normal schedule.
There'll be LA in January, Anaheim, then San Jose, then San Diego. But I was happy. It was just good to go back to expos how it used to be. Now normally there's a muscle contest show in there, which brings even that much more. It was in
Anaheim though.
But that was in Anaheim because they couldn't get the conflicting schedules and they just couldn't make it happen. So if that would have been there, and that had pro bikini and a couple other divisions, it would have really been nuts then. But I was just happy that it was back. Fit Expos are back. We all want to see that.
Yeah.
Seeing lines, and Bradley Martin's line was crazy, and Dana and Rob's line was crazy, and Phil's was crazy because that's the first Fit Expo Phil's been to in, I want to say, since like 2015. So like 7 years. So that was, they were just happy that he was back there.
It was good to reconnect with him and kind of hear about all the great things he's working on now.
Yeah, because, I put a post up on social media, Phil and I.
He's going to come on the podcast.
He'll come on the podcast, and I'm sure it'll get a lot of stuff we'll talk about that most people don't know, but it was just good to sit down and reconnect and just spend time with him because it's been, 7 years.
Yeah.
And same with you, you're reconnected with him, and we'll have some good shit coming up whenever we get him out here on the podcast.
Yeah, people often ask like who guests are and whatever else, and a lot of times we're just kind of going back and forth, and we always think about let's have this person, but the conflict of scheduling is sometimes tough.
And I know schedule. I know people will say, "Well, just put it, just bring them on Skype," and I'm like, it's just no. We live in Vegas. Everybody comes to Vegas at some point, so we'll do it when they're here. There's no rush.
So, did you train any of the other places, or just there? Did you go to the Golds downtown?
Mecca. No, I didn't. The other days it was just I'd get up at 6 a.m. and eat breakfast and get to the expo early because I always get there before everyone else. Get to the expo and then get the athletes.
How many people recognize the podcast?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people do. A couple people took pictures with me. But it just, they're taxing.
Always the thing you didn't want to do. You always never wanted to do the podcast. You're like, man.
I've always said this, and I know some people won't understand this, but I don't have an ego with people knowing who I am. I don't need that. Mm-hmm. Some people want attention. I don't. So I've always been hesitant. You know how many times people ask me to go on podcasts? How many times have I done it in the last decade? Twice.
Yeah, it's funny though because with social media, like the growth of social media, how important is it to someone's life and fitness? I feel that social media is like almost a necessity now. Like I had so many of these attendees this weekend. Like, how do I grow my social media? I don't think I've ever had an appearance where more people asked me. Remember, I did 3 in one weekend. Mm-hmm. Like, how do I grow social media? You know, and always my first comment is, you know, number one, you're here to meet me. You're here for motivation. Take a picture, tag me. I reposted everything on the weekend, you know. Yeah. And, you know, you try to comment and you try to engage. And a lot of people are introverted where they don't want to do, you know, videos of themselves. I mean, it's just like I questioned you, like you never want to do this podcast because you don't want to like gloat anything of your successes, right? And I feel like social media is like almost a necessary thing. Like everyone wants to be famous or a known person, but they're afraid to put out the media, right?
Social media could help you or it could hurt you. You know, it can get your name out there, but if you do it wrong, you can upset people. Like when you mentioned, I don't want to gloat. Like sometimes gloating isn't a good thing on social media. When you're showing stuff, sometimes people can take it the wrong way. So I've never wanted to put that out there. Don't talk about successes and that's just me personally. Other people do it, and that's
well. I mean, a lot of people follow people for their business ventures, though, right? I mean,
but you can talk about business ventures without gloating about it. Yeah, there's a way of doing it where you can help people. This is just me personally. Yeah. I don't. Everyone has, you know, some people do it and that's their thing and it works good for them. But me personally, I've always just said, hey, I'd rather take my time and my energy to give it to people that want that shot. Yeah,
I'll tell you I have like a few basic things with media that I'm always suggestive to people to do. If you're trying to be a fitness influencer, right? In this, for sure, the training, right? You have to put your training in, you have to put your diet in. You have to put some general life, like with like what you do outside the gym, meaning like, you know, relaxing time, maybe like your pets or whatever else. But also, you really need to talk to your people that follow you, right? Yeah. And that's whether you have 5 people or you have 500 or 5,000, right? You should treat it all the same because everyone starts with. I started TikTok. Even myself,
0
with 0 people. They blue check marked me. I
started with 0. Check mark before you even got 1 follower.
So, and I didn't actually do anything on it for a long time. So I had to start from 0. Granted, I have a big platform, right? But I look back at my DVDs, okay, early social media. Okay. What attracted the people to me, okay? Obviously, the training and the eating were a huge part of it, but they wanted to see me with the dogs. They wanted to see me shop at Costco. They wanted to see my travel ventures. They wanted to see what makes a person tick outside of the gym also. They saw my cars. They saw what activities I did on the day off, the massage therapy. Like you kind of have to document your life a little bit. Yeah. And that's a little invasive, right? Yes. Even for myself, like for me, cooking trifecta on a daily basis or, you know, mixing up, you know, my Cutler shakes or whatever else. You know, I could have just... I didn't even social media. You just watch me drink a shake here after training. But people want to know, okay, where's the window after training? Like, talk about that stuff because that's what's going to give people, like, the knowledge a little bit. And you want to kind of follow, but at the same time create your own path, right? Yeah. And I've seen everyone kind of build their social media from the get-go because we were around very, like, apparent when Instagram launched out in, like, 2011, 12, whenever it was. And we had to learn. We learned before Instagram stories, right? They weren't existing. Yeah. Before YouTube was big, I was shooting Swole Monkey Productions on a little bullshit handheld. And now here we are doing a podcast, you know, and kind of putting out content every week for people to kind of listen to what our insight is on this or that. You know, how can you be better at fitness? And I feel like, you know, you have to sometimes come out of your shell a little bit. Yeah. And these expos are a great way for the interaction or these meet and greets that, you know, that's why I publicize. I'm going to be here. It's a free event. Come by and see me. Or, you know, like I said, the Fit Expo, and it's all walks of life, right? You saw so many people facing the weight challenges. Not everyone wants to be the next fitness celebrity, right? They want to be a person that's able to overcome obstacles, right? The gym is a great place to relieve stress. I mean, that's how I started training. Was, you know, I was crossroad of 18 years old. I'm expected to do this, take over the family business. I'm like, fuck that. I want to do my own thing. I found bodybuilding. You know, I found bodybuilding and it put me in a different realm. I spent time in the gym and I trained and, you know, but I felt good. I felt good and I watched the progression in the mirror. You know, I was an artist that built my physique and I never imagined that it would ever go to that level. You know, there was always questions every Olympia, like, how is this going to go down? And your confidence tells you, like, I'm going to win this thing. But, you know, there's so many hungry people out there.
Of course.
And we're seeing now the progression of the younger generation coming in. Unfortunately, we're seeing more towards classic, right?
Yep.
And how do I feel about that? It's a little discouraging, to be honest, that everyone that I talk to, I say, what division are you shooting for? 90% of them are saying classic. And listen, I honor anything, whether it's female, whatever. But it's tough for me to see bodybuilding not getting the path that it should.
Why do you think that is?
Because the lack of publicity of the bodybuilders are the top guys. Mm-hmm. Like, I think Walker is doing an amazing job. I think Hunter is doing, but it's just disappointing. Like, I'm not seeing as much content from like Hadi, from Rami. Mm-hmm. I'm not seeing as much from Bonnick as I would love to see. You know, I love how, you know, Regan does content. Like I mentioned, Nick Walker, Brad Wilkins doing it. You know, Bumstead obviously for classic physique, but there's so many. is doing more. Like, there's so many guys doing more content, and I think it's important, man. I think it's important that you got to put out the content. But is the path shorter to get to classic? You answer that question.
No, I think, and I know some people get their feathers ruffled from this, a lot of guys don't want to put in the work to be bodybuilders. They can all, the top open guy, they can all say, oh, I don't want to look like that. Bullshit.
I know, but
they want to.
To be honest, Matt, speaking from my terms, dude, I was great at 20.
Of course.
I got my pro card at 23, and you remember how big I was. Yeah. I mean, I went into my first pro show, people thinking, oh, he's going to win this. And granted, they had the diuretic testing. I didn't know anything about, like, how to manipulate that. And, you know, it took me a year or two to get my stride, but by 25, I was on Olympia stage. I mean, so like you say,
but not everybody was like that, though. You're an extremely rare case, but there's a lot of people. I always say, it always takes budget a decade to be a top open guy.
And people don't have the patience
they don't want to do it. But the reality is, and I hate saying this, and I'm sure people argue with me, you're not going to make money like open guys in these other divisions. You're just not. It's, you know,
what do you mean, like the prize money?
The contracts, the prize money, the appearances. Outside of someone like Chris, who's a rare breed, the vast majority won't make that type of money, and they don't realize that. You know, a top open guy's contract is dramatically different than a classic and a men's physique contract. You know, I've done many, and it's dramatically, you know, bigger. But at the same time, if I look at the Olympia, what's the big draw at the Olympia?
The men's bodybuilding.
Open bodybuilding.
Yeah.
They don't pay $1,000 to see these other divisions. They want to see the freaks, and it's always going to be there. But like you said, some of the top guys are not putting the content out there like they should. And does it hurt the division? Yeah, it does. And I don't know how to change that. You can't force somebody to put out content. There's nothing you can do.
I just don't see the promoters, and I'm a promoter for contests, paying guys $5,000 to come and guest pose plus expenses anymore.
And the other thing is, there's a lot of top guys that won't guest pose. And I'm not going to say names. There's people I reach out to say, hey, this promoter wants a guest posing. I don't want to travel. It's like, dude, like, you need to. No, I need to concentrate on bodybuilding. And it's like, you and Ronnie were on the road 4 weeks. I know,
but we didn't have social media, so maybe the social media is the other avenue to financially support
and the
yourself.
Other thing is too, you still need that human interaction.
I feel that way.
You can be huge on social media. It's great to be huge on social media, but you still going and shaking someone's hand, taking the time, signing something, talking to them is more valuable than a social media post, in my opinion. Because
I thought after the lockdowns and everything else and being like held to not traveling, that we would be able to run social media and not have to go back to face-to-face contact. And I was wrong.
But look at the face-to-face. Look at what happened in Canada. We're in a small town in Canada, 8 hours standing in line. Look at what your line was at the Fit Expo. We were there till the very end. You were still taking pictures with people as you're walking out. You know, and this was all of them. Regan had a crazy line. Phil had a crazy line. All these guys did. And I just think that a lot of people, instead of when you were coming up, there was open bodybuilding. I'm training to be a bodybuilder. There's other guys, even guys that you might have competed against, might not have been open bodybuilders if they could have went and said, well, I can get my pro card in this division, and then I can move up to this division, and I can move up to this division and make money along the way instead of going, I'm just going to be a
There would have been a lot of great classic guys in my era.
You know what? And I didn't even think about this. And Phil pointed this out because we had conversations with Regan about getting, growing in size. And he showed us a picture and said, this was the New York Pro and I won. He was 208 pounds.
Yeah.
He would have been classic. And he won an open show at 208 pounds. And so many people think you need to be massive, but you don't.
Yeah.
But he was stupid peeled, and that's what mattered. But in today's day, he could have competed in classic at his height because he's 5'9", 5'10".
Yeah,
I think it's 210 or is a cutoff or something like that for him. But you would have never guessed that looking at the picture that he was that light.
I wonder what his peak weight was ever.
I don't know. I've never
45
in mid 240s. I would guess. Hani, I was on the phone with Hani last night, and he mentioned that. He's like, dude, Phil was under 210 pounds when he won the New York Pro, and nobody would believe it, but he was. So I don't know. I don't know if there's. I think the other thing too is a lot of people get tuned off by the drug stuff, and they think you need to take too many drugs to be that size, and that's just not the reality of it. Genetics play.
I don't know why people think that, there's a huge drug difference between open and classic.
There isn't. In some cases, I guarantee you there's guys in classic that take more.
Well, I mean, dude, it's like the average, the average pro doesn't take as much as the average guy in the gym often, right?
Of course.
I mean, you just talked about, how I was amazing at 20 and 23 and 25, and you're like, well, you're a rare case, right? Yeah. I was a hyper responder, you know what I mean, to everything, training, food. Yeah. I mean,
look at Ronnie, who was natural when he turned pro.
Kai Green
was, Sean Roden was, and Phil took very, very, very little to turn pro, and because he had, at the time,
very inexperienced,
So it's not a drug thing, but the problem is, I think there's a lot of misinformation out there on the internet, and people assume that if you're bigger than me and you look better than me, you have a secret.
Yeah,
but the reality is you're just better.
No, but it's a lot of the consistency. I just get stopped in the gym and. I had a guy say, I want to do this transformation. What would it take? I said, dude, listen, he's like, I'm going out a lot. I'm doing, extra things. And I said, if you could just focus for 12 weeks and eat, every 3 hours, which would mean 6 meals a day. He's like, should I get a chef? And I said, well, you can try meal prep. He's like, I tried that, and we didn't have this, right? So 20 years ago, we weren't thinking meal prep. I mean, we were cooking our own food and, we didn't even have cooler bags, right? So we were bringing like bags with ice, and carrying our meals and, or bringing a George Foreman grill to the events. I remember being in Mandalay Bay and having a George Foreman grill and heating up my food that way in tinfoil, And, you don't realize how easy it is today, but it's all commitment and dedication of like, okay, this is the game plan. Here's a 12-week spread. I'm going to eat my 6 meals a day every day, and I'm not going to miss. And I'm going to follow the training program. I'm not going to deviate. But, you have to sacrifice. And not many people are willing to sacrifice. I know with me, like I mentioned, my world stopped. My world stopped when I trained for a show, meaning like the phone slowed down, the travel stopped, and it was all about the training and eating and sleeping.
That was what, the last 12 weeks?
12, 16 weeks a lot, So, but 12 weeks for sure. I couldn't be bothered, right? Yep. Business stopped pretty much. Like business slowed down. I'm like, I need to dedicate, double sessions training, need to dedicate the food, and the business worked around it. And my business suffered, and I always said that I had to sacrifice. So not only from the social aspect and the relationships and all the other extra activities I did, like everything was just zoned in. And that's how you should go after anything, whether it's, it's like people that cram to study for a test or they have classes they need to attend. I mean, you talk about, interest in getting a pilot's license, right? You have to dedicate X amount of hours to doing that and just be focused. Yeah. And people today lack that ability to be focused
There's too
on
many
one goal.
distractions.
Yes. I mean, this is the biggest distraction of them all.
Yeah.
I mean, we sit and joke and say, oh, when most time we sit on social media when we're on the toilet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when's the last time you sat on the toilet without picking up your phone and having your phone?
It's rare.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you have to go to the bathroom, you're like, where's my phone?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to sit there.
Can you imagine? I mean, I'm on the plane, dude, like, and, you know, we're on Wi-Fi, and here I am flicking through, like, messages and just thinking, okay, who should I hit up right now because I haven't really touched base, or, you know, or what can I handle while I'm on the plane, and emails, and kind of watching them come in and out, right? So it's kind of crazy what we've come to, and we're just so distracted.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the gym, like, you notice I set my phone in my bag, you know, and I told you.
You always have me filming.
Yeah, and I had you film, and I'm like, hey, text this person or that person, just because I don't want to be on my phone because it's just distracting for me, because I just want to give myself that 45 minutes still. I still have that mentality.
I
that
probably should too.
It's just a timeout for me, because the rest of the day is going to be wild, and it was wild this morning with messaging and everything else. I'm just trying to catch up from the weekend, you know, these trips, and you get back on a plane tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow I fly to Sacramento for the World's Strongest Man. So we got
Pretty
Brian
exciting.
Shaw. Yeah, it is.
2 years in a row, Sacramento.
Yeah, they I don't know if it's
last year was just restrictive as hell.
It was
right?
awful. Last year was awful. They didn't allow fans to come in, and Brian couldn't have film crew people, and it was a total shit show. But this year, I messaged, you know, his wife earlier, and I said, hey, do I need tickets? Because I didn't even think about it. She's like, no, it's free. It's wide open, because the community is you know, part of the promotion, I believe. But, you know, Brian's 40 years old, and he lost last year by a second at 39 years old to the Stoltman, I think it is.
And he said he was coming in a little leaner for this.
He's a little smaller, so he's hovering right around 400 pounds. Mm-hmm. And he said it's the best he's ever felt, and he feels he's got a good shot of winning it. Because I know last year there was a couple events in the beginning that he mistimed, and he suffered a couple placings where if he would have did it the right way.
He's 1-4, right?
He's 1-4.
And what if he wins this?
He's got 5 now. I think him and Zildrudas.
Is he going to keep going, or?
I don't know. I mean, I'd hang it up. I mean, he's 40. What does he got to prove?
What do our true hardcore Brian Shaw fans say about his? I mean, his record here. I wanted 5 Olympias, you know.
I know,
and I feel kind of cool because when we did our filming, it was like 4x, you know,
3 Arnolds.
Yeah. So if he wins, you know, it's gonna throw us off. Yeah, it's gonna throw us off.
So I'll go up there tomorrow, and I don't know when I'm coming home. So I just booked a one-way ticket there.
When's it end?
Sunday.
And normally you have a meet and greet on Mondays.
Normally
you
have a meet and greet, but Monday's Memorial Day.
Yeah, it's a holiday.
So he's got to film. We got a bunch of filming stuff lined up for him, and the team just reach out and they're like, "Yo, you know, it's like people want off on Monday." Like in the back of my head, I'm going, "I don't give a shit. There's no such thing as a day off. I work whatever day." But I'm like, "Yeah, well, he's going to film Tuesday." So on the back of my head, I'm going, "Shit, am I going to get home Tuesday or am I going to get home Wednesday?" So I might be there for a week.
Well, it's kind of cool because you're in trifecta territory.
Yep.
Also.
I'm staying right across I always stay at the hotel right across the street from trifecta.
Will you spend some time at the
I'll go there I'll go there throughout the day and sit down with the team and just discuss different athletes that we have on board and what we can do, what we can do to maximize our athletes. And I always sit down with the founder and Greg and his marketing team, and just I'll have a lot of meetings on there. So it'll be nice.
They still they have a big production for this year's Olympia, right? I mean, they'll have a booth.
Trifecta is the title sponsor, and it's in Vegas. So.
Yeah, if you could host the biggest bodybuilding event ever, where would you host it?
It's hard to leave Vegas. Vegas is still Vegas.
I know, but tell our viewers and our listeners why the Arnold Classic in Ohio makes sense.
It makes sense because basic demographics are just. When you look at the globe and you look at the map, if I remember right, and I could be off, I'm sure someone will correct me, like 60 or 70% of the population in America is east of the Mississippi. So it's in Columbus, Ohio. Within a 5-hour driving range, you have like 40 million people that you can access. Mm-hmm. And not everybody can be like you and I and just book a flight. Like we can afford it. Not everybody can do that. Some people they have a family and they want to go to one of these events. They can't book 4 plane tickets. They can't pay an expensive hotel, but they can drive in for the day, whether they're coming from Detroit or they're coming from Chicago or Indianapolis or Cincinnati or Cleveland or any of these places are within driving distance. They can drive in for the day, take their kids, watch the show, and they can drive home, and it's affordable. So the Arnold Expo, that's why I think it always will do extremely well being there. Where we're in Vegas, you have Vegas. I mean, you have LA, which is, 3.5 hours, but Phoenix is 5 hours. Salt Lake City's 5 hours, but the vast majority of people are flying in. So you're not going to, that's why I think the Arnold has more foot traffic, but the Olympia is still the Olympia. I prefer the Olympia in Vegas, not just because I live here, because I don't care, but it's a sexier place. Bodybuilding is still a sexy sport. And it's going to Orlando. Orlando's more of a family place.
But you say Vegas, but you just gave the whole demographic thing for the Arnold, right? So why Vegas? Just because it's such a destination city, or
it's a destination city?
The flights used to be cheaper to come here, but I don't know if it's.
I don't know what they are now. Flights have just been, every time I book a flight now, it's $1,000.
Yeah, but Vegas is so busy, man. We had EDC this weekend. Thank goodness we weren't here because it was just wild, right?
But yeah, I mean, you got to think if someone's coming to the Olympia and they want to come here, they want to go to the top restaurants. They want to go see some shows, maybe like outside of bodybuilding. They want to go to the expo. They want to stay at the badass hotels. Some of them want to go to the nightclubs. They want to go see the badass nightclubs. A lot of other, like if it's in Florida again, Orlando doesn't have those things. So a lot of people would get tuned off by that.
Yeah, the biggest memories for me, obviously, was the early days, and it was at Mandalay Bay, my first one. Yeah. And it was all housed under one roof, and it was pretty wild, to be able to. Mandalay Bay was like the hot hotel then. Yeah. But, it was really hard because there weren't any kitchens. And back then, people didn't necessarily use Airbnb. The Airbnb didn't exist. And they didn't have, kitchenette hotels weren't as popular. So we all stayed at Mandalay Bay. And like I said, I used a Foreman grill to heat up. We didn't have microwaves in the rooms. So it was difficult to host a bodybuilding event, especially when it revolves around food, right? Yeah. I mean, some of the bodybuilders ate in the restaurants because you can eat somewhat clean food, but I did. The one thing I
will say about when it was in Florida the last couple of years, it's easier there.
It is, yeah.
Because it's all under one roof. And you can just walk in and out, and you can just walk back to your room, change, go to the night show, put a suit on, go back, go to sleep. So it's definitely easier. So from that aspect, I like it there. But I don't know if you could. I don't know if there's, unless I don't know if you took it back to Mandalay Bay here, if it could do the same thing there.
Yeah, I wonder what they'll do for 24. That's the big question.
Maybe take it overseas,
or to have it travel around. I mean, there's a lot of great cities that they've had it in Chicago before, and I don't know if they've ever had it in Texas. Wouldn't be a great place for it, right?
Dallas. I mean, Dallas is right in the middle of America. Yeah. Dallas. I mean, it's got a large population. You got.
I mean, everyone's moving to Texas. It seems
you still have Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Oklahoma City. Those are all within driving distance. So you probably have access to, 15 million people. And it's usually cheaper to fly there because there's multiple airports. So you're not pigeonholed in one airport. In Dallas, there's two. So I don't know.
What do you see? Yeah, I mean, listen, I've always, I lived in Massachusetts when the Arnold was there, and I mean, the Boston show was great.
The Olympia was in Columbus in the beginning, wasn't it?
It was, one time. No, it was I don't know if it was it was a pro show. I know that Arnold competed. I think that's where
the Lormers ran it one time or something like that, and it was in. I could be wrong though. I'm not a historian by any means.
No, it's just I miss the days of Joe Weider and how he was there and present. I mean, he created this show as the Super Bowl. And, we were all kind of mentored by him. And like I mentioned with, winning a pro card, you were almost guaranteed, if you were, obviously an overall winner or whatever, you were pretty much guaranteed getting a contract with Joe Weider. And that was what you looked forward to. So not only the pro card, but you were like, oh, Weider will sign me, right? Yeah. And then you knew, okay, I'm making a living at this. And back then it was kind of funny because you looked at, $50,000, $60,000 contracts as a great living because
it was affordable then.
Yeah, I mean it was affordable, but
$600 or $500.
But maybe people still think, oh, that's a great revenue. But depending on where you live, it's just that the places we live and the lifestyle that we have, it's very hard to dictate that kind of lifestyle with certain revenue, right?
If you made $5,000 a month and you live in Omaha, you can probably It's affordable.
Yeah,
you live in California, you can't pay your bills.
Yeah,
you're broke.
It's harder because the rent is so much more now. I mean,
but also back when your pro card, there was like 10 people turned pro.
I was talking to Chris Cormier about this in Pittsburgh, and we were talking about the rent in apartments in Venice, and it was like $800 for an apartment.
Now it's like $4,000.
It's ridiculous.
$5,000. That's crazy.
What a difference, right? So that's why
you want to get a place there. What's wrong
all
with
the bodybuilders, all the bodybuilders could migrate there and be affordable, right? But now it's just more difficult to, try to find that cost of living. I mean, a lot of people are coming to Vegas now and thinking that it's a lot cheaper, which I don't feel.
Vegas is still cheaper than the other major cities, but it's not as cheap. It used to be a hidden gem. It's not a hidden gem anymore, but it's still cheaper overall. It's still the fourth lowest tax burden in America. There's no natural disasters here. Insurance on your house is inexpensive. Taxes, property taxes are inexpensive. So it's still cheaper than most places. Like Vegas is dirt cheap compared to Los Angeles or New York or Miami or any of these other places. What somebody pays for a 1-bedroom apartment in one of those places, you could rent a 3,000 square foot house here and pay the electric, water, trash, everything for the same amount.
And you guys got to eat out when you were in LA. Any place decent?
We went to that little breakfast spot that's been there for like 50 years. Yeah. Phil and I ate there every morning. We actually stood.
How long was the line?
We got lucky both days. We only stood for about 15 minutes because we were walking by and I'm like, we can either stand here or we can go to Denny's. And I'm like, we could go to Denny's anywhere. Because it's easy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, we could go to Denny's anytime. Let's just stand in line. We're in no rush. So we stood in line for a while and we went in there and it's
What'd you eat?
Eggs and sausage and something else. He just got steak and eggs. And so we ate there both mornings. And then we ate at Fleming's the Thursday night or Friday night. Yeah, because he got on Friday. So we ate at Fleming's Friday night. Saturday night, we all went out with the Celsius crew. Yeah, Simon and the crew took all of us out to a private dinner at Delilah.
Shout out to Celsius.
Yeah, shout out to Celsius.
Celsius here.
So it was me and Regan and Angie came because you weren't in town. And, I said, hey, come out with us. So Angie came out with us, Phil.
Angie's the life of the party, bro.
Yeah, Whitney Jones came out with us too. We sat in this little private room in Delilah and just ate and had some drinks and just laughed and bullshitted and just had a good time. So it was worth it. And then what'd we do on Sunday? Sunday, we were going to leave out on Monday, and I looked at the flights and I said to Regan, I said, dude, we could just leave. We don't have to stay here tonight. He's like, yeah. And I said, there's a flight at 10:30.
My crazy ass drove back.
Yeah, and you know what? Because we got stuck on the runway, you got home like 15 minutes before we did.
You knew I was going to drive back on Sunday night.
Look at this guy. He orders food and doesn't even ask us.
He's ordered Chipotle. Right? Is that Chipotle or?
Of course.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Yeah, we're sitting here hungry. I haven't ate since breakfast, and he's got food here. And
We'll eat. So
yeah, I'm on a diet. I eat once.
Yeah.
A day.
So we definitely we've been progressing. I can't believe we're up to 31 on this.
I know.
Cast.
31.
And obviously you have a big weekend plan ahead. So
we're gonna get the Cutler cast on the road up too. I got it back.
What's that? The Canadian tour?
The Canadian one.
That's gonna be awesome.
So we got that. We'll get that up. And then, next week, obviously, I'll have some cool stuff to report back. Hopefully, Brian Shaw gets his number 5. Because then when we have to have him to come back on and talk about
who's the defending?
One of the younger Stoltman brother.
Okay,
he's only like 26.
And smaller, right?
No, he's the bigger one.
But I mean, he's still not as big as Brian Shaw.
Not as big as Brian, but he's like 6'8", 360, which is
still huge. Okay.
Yeah, I mean. Everyone's like, oh, he's a small guy. I'm like, he's not. I stood next to him. He's not much smaller than Brian.
Yeah.
But he's still young. He's like 27 or 28. But we'll see how it pans out. I'm looking forward to it. So we'll talk about that next time around. And anything else?
No, that's it. We'll see how the California Pro goes this weekend. I'm sure we'll talk about that. Yeah. And on to the next. I mean, we got a lot of traveling coming up. I mean, we have the Houston Fit Expo's back.
Houston Fit Expo. Before that, we got San Jose Fit Expo. I know you have a couple other appearances.
Yeah, I have Nutrition Corners. I have Bullfrog Nutrition. I have a ton of stuff.
I have in San Diego.
Yep. I'll be in Boise next.
Where's the Foundation? That's New York, right?
Foundation RX, yeah.
New York. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff coming up.
Yeah. So we're excited. Thank you guys for following. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and share this video. And we'll see you on the next episode. Episode 32 next on the Cutler Cast. So shut up.